They smiled at you, looked straight into your eyes, spoke sweet words, acted like they cared, and you almost believed them. But what you didn't see, what you couldn't see, what was hidden behind that smile, God saw everything. Every hidden intention, every silent jealousy, every fake word wrapped in kindness, every moment they secretly wished for your downfall. God was watching it all while you were still trying to understand why something felt off inside your spirit. Because your soul knew before your mind could explain it. There was something wrong. Something not pure. Something not aligned. And now you're starting to realize. Not everyone who smiles at you is happy for you. Not everyone who stands with you is standing for you. Some people stand close just to study you, to copy you, to compete with you silently, or worse, to wait for the perfect moment to betray you. And the scary part is, they don't look like enemies. They look like friends. They sound like supporters. They act like well-wishers. But behind closed doors, they speak differently, think differently, feel differently about you. And this is where divine protection begins to work in your life in ways you cannot physically see. Because while you were trusting, God was exposing. While you were open-hearted, God was setting boundaries around you. While you were unaware, God was already blocking things that were meant to harm you. And this is why some connections suddenly felt distant. This is why some people slowly disappeared from your life without explanation. This is why certain relationships didn't last even when you tried your best to hold them together. It wasn't rejection. It was protection. It wasn't loss. It was divine intervention. Because God will never allow hidden evil to stay permanently connected to a chosen soul. No matter how real it looks on the surface. No matter how convincing their behavior feels. Truth has a way of revealing itself. And God has a way of removing masks when the time is right. You see, some people clap for you in public, but compete with you in private. Some people encourage you with their words, but feel uncomfortable with your growth. Some people pray with you, but secretly wish they had your blessings. And this is not something to fear. This is something to understand. Because once you understand this, you stop being emotionally controlled by people's behavior. You stop seeking validation from the wrong hearts. You stop explaining yourself to those who were never truly listening. And you start moving differently. Wiser. Calmer. Stronger. Because now you know. Not every smile is genuine. Not every compliment is pure. Not every presence is meant to stay. And that awareness, that quiet awakening inside you, is not negativity. It is spiritual maturity. It is discernment. It is God sharpening your vision so you no longer fall for appearances. So you no longer get attached to illusions. So you no longer mistake attention for loyalty. Because real loyalty doesn't need to prove itself loudly. It shows up consistently. It supports you silently. It celebrates you genuinely. And it never feels threatened by your light. But fake people, they struggle when you shine. They become uncomfortable when you grow. They start acting strange when your life begins to elevate. And sometimes, they reveal themselves not through what they say, but through what they don't say. The silence. The absence. The energy shift. The lack of support when you needed it the most. These are the signs you once ignored. But now you see clearly. Now you understand why certain things felt forced. Why some conversations felt empty. Why some connections drained your energy instead of uplifting your spirit. Because your soul was never meant to stay connected to that frequency. And God knew it. That's why things started falling apart. That's why certain bonds broke. That's why you felt alone at times. Not because you were abandoned, but because you were being separated from what could not go where you're going. And yes, it hurt. Yes, it confused you. Yes, you questioned everything, even yourself. But now look at you. Stronger, wiser, more aware, more aligned, and most importantly, more protected. Because now you don't just see faces. You feel intentions. You don't just hear words. You sense energy. You don't just trust easily. You observe deeply. And this shift, this inner transformation, is exactly what was needed for your next level. Because where you're going, not everyone deserves access. Not everyone can handle your presence. Not everyone can be trusted with your energy. And that's not arrogance. That's awareness. That's growth. That's divine selection. Because God is not just elevating you. He is also filtering your circle. Removing those who cannot align with your purpose. Exposing those who pretend. And protecting you from what you cannot see. And the most powerful part is, you didn't have to fight anyone. You didn't have to expose anyone. You didn't have to prove anything. God handled it quietly, strategically, perfectly. And now, when you look back, everything makes sense. Every distance, every silence, every ending, every unexpected shift. It was all leading you here. To a place of clarity, strength, and protection. So the next time someone smiles at you, don't just look at their face. Feel their energy. Trust your spirit. Because God already showed you once. And He won't let you fall for the same illusion again, and what you're beginning to realize now is something most people spend their entire lives ignoring. That not every connection is meant to be trusted just because it feels familiar. Not every person who has access to your life deserves access to your heart. And not every smile deserves your openness. Because the truth is, some people were never sent to support you. They were allowed to enter your life to reveal something within you, to awaken your discernment, to teach you how to see beyond appearances. And the moment you stop taking things at surface level, everything changes. The way you listen changes. The way you observe changes. The way you respond changes. You become quieter, not weaker, but wiser. Because you understand now that energy speaks louder than words. That intentions reveal themselves through patterns, not promises. And that consistency is the real truth behind every mask. Because anyone can pretend for a moment. Anyone can act kind for a short time. Anyone can smile when it benefits them. But very few can maintain genuine intentions over time. And that's where God starts showing you the difference. Slowly. Clearly. Undeniably. He allows time to expose what eyes cannot immediately detect. He allows situations to reveal what words try to hide. He allows distance to uncover what closeness once disguised. And suddenly, people you once trusted start to feel unfamiliar. Conversations that once felt natural start to feel forced. And the same presence that once comforted you now drains you. And you can't explain it logically. But spiritually, you feel it deeply. Because your awareness has expanded. Your sensitivity has sharpened. And your soul is no longer willing to ignore what it once tolerated. And this is where many people get confused. Because they think something is wrong with them. They think they are overthinking. They think they are becoming distant. But in reality, they are finally seeing clearly. And clarity often comes with separation. Clarity often comes with discomfort. Clarity often requires you to let go of illusions you once held on to. And yes, it's painful to accept that someone you once trusted may not have been genuine. It's painful to realize that some smiles were fake. That some words were empty. That some connections were conditional. But it's even more painful to stay blind to it. To keep giving your energy where it is not valued. To keep investing your heart where it is not safe. And that's why God intervenes. Not always loudly. Not always dramatically. But quietly. Through shifts. Through signs. Through feelings you cannot ignore anymore. Because divine protection doesn't always look like obvious rescue. Sometimes it looks like confusion that leads to clarity. Sometimes it looks like distance that creates safety. Sometimes it looks like endings that prevent destruction. And if you pay attention, you'll notice a pattern. Every time someone with wrong intentions got too close, something happened. Something shifted. Something disrupted the connection. Maybe an argument. Maybe a misunderstanding. Maybe a sudden change. And at that time, you didn't understand why it happened. You may have even blamed yourself. You may have tried to fix it. To hold on to it. To bring things back to how they were. But now, looking back, you see it differently. You see that what broke needed to break. What left needed to leave. What ended needed to end. Because it was not aligned with your path. And God saw what you couldn't see. He heard what you couldn't hear. He knew what they truly carried in their heart. And He chose to protect you. Even when you were still trying to understand them. Even when you were still trying to give them chances. Even when you were still believing in their words. And that's the kind of protection that doesn't always feel good in the moment. But later, becomes the very reason you are at peace. Because imagine if those hidden intentions stayed close to you. Imagine if those fake smiles remained in your daily life. Imagine if those people had deeper access to your plans. Your growth. Your next level. The damage could have been far greater. The betrayal could have been deeper. The loss could have been heavier. But God didn't allow it. He cut it off early. He exposed it gradually. He removed it strategically. And now, you're standing here with a clearer vision, a stronger heart, and a deeper understanding of people. And this is not making you cold. It's making you conscious. It's not making you distant. It's making you selective. Because you've learned that your energy is valuable. Your presence is powerful. Your time is sacred. And not everyone deserves access to that. Not everyone deserves to hear your plans. Not everyone deserves to stand close to your journey. Because some people don't want to see you grow. They want to see how far they can go without you noticing their intentions. And once you realize that, you stop oversharing. You stop over-explaining. You stop over-giving. You move in silence. You grow in private. You trust slowly. And you observe deeply. Because now you understand. That protection is not just about removing people. It's about transforming you. It's about elevating your awareness to a level where you no longer attract the same kind of energy. Where you no longer entertain the same kind of people. Where you no longer fall for the same kind of illusions. And this transformation, this quiet shift inside you, is preparing you for something bigger. Something greater. Something that requires a higher level of discernment. Because where you're going, not everyone can come. Not everyone can understand. Not everyone can handle your presence. And that's okay. Because your journey was never meant to be crowded. It was meant to be purposeful. It was meant to be protected. It was meant to be aligned. And now, every smile you see, every word you hear, every connection you experience, you look at it differently. Not with fear, but with awareness. Not with doubt, but with discernment. Because you've already seen what happens when intentions don't match appearances. And you've already experienced how God steps in to protect you when you don't even realize you need protection. And that realization, That deep understanding is what sets you apart now. It's what makes you move differently, think differently, choose differently. Because now you're no longer just living. You're aware. You're aligned. And most importantly, you're protected, and now something inside you has permanently shifted. Something that will never allow you to go back to your old way of seeing people. Because once God reveals truth to you, you cannot unsee it. Once your spirit recognizes real intentions, you cannot ignore it anymore. And this is the phase where you start outgrowing people without even trying. Not because you think you're better than them, but because your awareness no longer allows you to stay connected to what feels fake, forced, or misaligned. And this is where the real transformation begins. Because you're no longer reacting the same way. You're no longer chasing explanations. You're no longer trying to fix every broken connection. Sometimes, you simply step back, observe, and let things reveal themselves. Because you've learned that truth doesn't need to be forced out. It shows itself with time, with consistency, with patterns that cannot stay hidden forever. And the most powerful part of this shift is that you stop taking things personally. Because you understand now that people act based on who they are, not based on who you are. Their jealousy, their hidden intentions, their fake smiles. It was never about you. It was about what they carried inside. It was about their own insecurities, their own comparisons, their own inability to align with your energy. And once you understand this, you stop blaming yourself. You stop questioning your worth. You stop wondering, what did I do wrong? Because you realize you were simply being yourself. Genuine, open, real. And that kind of energy naturally exposes anything that is not. And that's why some people couldn't stay. That's why some people became uncomfortable. That's why some people smiled in your face but couldn't stand your presence in your absence. Because your light revealed what they were trying to hide. And instead of fixing themselves, they chose to fake their connection with you. But God doesn't allow fake connections to last forever. Especially when you are being prepared for something greater. Because the higher you go, the more dangerous it becomes to have the wrong people around you. The more costly it becomes to trust the wrong intentions. And that's why your circle is changing. That's why your environment is shifting. That's why certain people no longer have access to you like they used to. It's not random. It's not coincidence. It's divine alignment. It's God clearing your path, removing distractions, eliminating hidden negativity, and making sure that where you're going, only the right energy can reach you. And yes, sometimes this process feels lonely. Sometimes it feels like you're losing more than you're gaining. Sometimes it feels like people are slowly disappearing from your life. But what you don't see yet is what God is replacing it with. Because every removal creates space. Every ending opens a new door. Every disconnection makes room for something real. Something aligned. Something that doesn't require you to question intentions, or doubt loyalty, or second-guess energy. And this is the level you are stepping into. A level where peace becomes more important than presence. Where authenticity matters more than attention. Where real connections are valued over temporary comfort. And the more you embrace this, the more your life starts to feel lighter, clearer, more aligned. Because you're no longer carrying the weight of fake relationships. You're no longer investing energy into people who were never meant to stay. You're no longer trying to force connections that don't feel right. Instead, you're allowing things to flow naturally. Allowing people to reveal themselves without interference. Allowing distance to happen without resistance. Because now you trust the process. You trust what God is doing behind the scenes. Even when you don't fully understand it in the moment. And this trust, this deep inner knowing, is what gives you peace. Even when things change. Even when people leave. Even when situations don't make sense immediately. Because you've seen before how what felt like loss turned out to be protection. How what felt like rejection turned out to be redirection. How what felt confusing turned out to be clarity in disguise. And now, you carry that understanding with you. You move with that awareness. You live with that faith. Knowing that no matter who smiles at you, no matter who pretends, no matter who hides their intentions, God sees everything. Nothing goes unnoticed. Nothing goes unaddressed. And nothing that is not meant for you will be allowed to stay in your life permanently. And that realization removes fear. It removes anxiety. It removes the need to constantly figure people out. Because you know, what is real will reveal itself. And what is fake will eventually fall away. Without you having to chase it, expose it, or fight it. And this is where your true power lies now. Not in controlling people. Not in confronting every hidden intention. But in staying aligned. Staying aware. And staying protected. Because the moment you stop lowering your standards, the moment you stop ignoring your intuition, the moment you start trusting what you feel instead of what you see, everything changes. Your circle changes. Your peace increases. Your focus sharpens. And your path becomes clearer. And the next time someone smiles at you, you won't just see a face. You'll sense an intention. You'll feel an energy. You'll recognize what's real and what's not. And you won't need to react. You won't need to prove anything. You'll simply know. And sometimes, that silent knowing is the strongest form of protection you will ever have. Because God didn't just remove the wrong people from your life. He upgraded your vision. He strengthened your spirit. And He prepared you for a life where you no longer fall for what only looks good on the surface. But instead, You align with what is truly meant for you. What is pure? What is real? And what is sent by Him? And that is the level you're stepping into now. A level where fake smiles no longer have power over you. Because your spirit sees what your eyes once couldn't.